Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Your Self-Healing Body, how to use emotion, energy, and intuition to raise your joy and vitality. I'm Dr. January Suarez, your host, and today I'm so pleased to have Sherry Anshara with us. Hello, Sherry.
Hi. And you know what? I want to thank Louise Percadani, my dear friend, because without Louisa, I wouldn't know you. So I have to say that.
That is true. Thank you, Louisa. So, Sherry, I just want to tell you guys a little bit about Sherry. She's an international best-selling author of Take Back Your Power, You Becoming You. She's a medical intuitive and intuitive business coach. She's founded her own method, the Anshara method, which is it's groundbreaking work in cellular memory. And so, like most healers, especially healers that develop their own technique, you had a real impactful experience in terms of seeking new ways of healing. Can you share your story with us?
It was fabulous. Actually, it was my third near-death experience. People talk about being, serial entrepreneurs. I'm like a serial In-N-Out burger girl. I come in, I get out. So in 1991, I was helping, I only assist now, I don't help anymore, a drunk woman in Connecticut. To make a long story short, the car surged. It went 40 feet in the air, flipped over, went upside down in 15 feet of water in the Connecticut River. And I had a broken neck, a broken back, a smashed head, and a brain out of place. But we didn't even know the brain was out of place for a while, a couple years actually. And because of that, the diagnosis was, you have this problem and you're going to have to take painkillers. So ultimately, I teach wordology or biology. So the idea of a killer in my body didn't make sense. And so through that experience, they said that I would have to live with this. And I thought, and the more that I didn't thinky, but my own intuition, my innate ability to reason reasonable stuff instead of not reasonable, was that if you cut yourself, your body heals itself. You don't have to look at it. I mean, you might put, an antibiotic on it or a bandage or something. And to me, painkillers were a bandage or drugs were a bandage. But the body knew something. So in 1991, when I started writing about cellular memory, because my clients and friends say I really coined it. Nobody knew what I was talking about. They said I was nuts. But I also added cellular memorization, that was the trauma, that was the cut, that, you memorized it, but the clear memory cleared it. And so how can some people heal and others don't because they were given a diagnosis or diagnoses, like a bunch of them, and said, that you're on your way out. And a closed...
Well, and what did the doctors tell you your prognosis was at that time?
That I would be a mess. That I'd be humped over and I wouldn't be able to move and, and that I would have all these limitations.
And obviously that's not true. And can I ask, you have a birthday coming up, right?
Yes, well, we won't say, but it's old. And you know what? I swear to God, I have found a key to agelessness. Now, this is not bragging rights in any way, shape, or form. But the wonderful thing is because I don't believe in aging. What I do believe is becoming more and more conscious and be connecting to your body. Because in the idea of flexibility, our body knows that. It's innately built into our bodies. And so you see people, they're walking like this and they're not standing up, but there's the emotional component. So shoulders are taking on too much responsibility connected to the knees, cut off at the knees. And that's what I began to notice in my own self. Like, how did I create this? I did. Okay, so I didn't blame myself, the be lame game, crippling game. But what could I do about the circumstance? So I heard people say, well, if you're in the circumstance, it can't change, you're just stuck. And I thought, no, why would I be stuck? So I actually began to talk to my body. What was my body saying? So if a cut could heal or a broken bone could heal, how about, like in the caveman days, they broke a bone. I mean, it healed. Even if they were a little wobbly or whatever, because even in research in Egypt or whatever, when they have, x-rayed or whatever they did, they found that there were fractures or broken or whatever, but they didn't die from it. We have been programmed that if something extraordinary happens, that we're given a death sentence. Or the fact is, we've been told that we were born to die. I was told that by a religious person when I was 6, that I was born to die. Well, I raised my hand and said, why show up, and got into trouble.
Right. That's really uplifting, or an uplifting thought. Well,
Yeah.
I'm glad you're saying that, because, one of the biggest reasons that I'm doing this whole series is just that I want people to truly get, like, we can heal no matter what it is, how long we've had it, how old we are, how extreme it is. And I really feel that it's just about connecting to the right piece that's going to create the shift for you. And so I love that you're sharing. It's so valuable to hear your experience, living proof of somebody that's done it, and now done it with many, many people, right? For many, many years.
For many, many, many years. And I always tell them, I am the facilitator. You are the healer. We're going to find out. So I say, you can't change the what until you get to the why. And through the years, what I discovered is that every disease, every illness, every affliction, every problem had an emotional component to it. Every one. And so, and when I'm having the intake sheet filled out by my clients, that lets me know the clues of where they are. So and this is certainly not discounting, any of their, professionals that they go to, because I believe in collaboration. So I work with doctors and functional medicine doctors and chiropractors, and cranial sacral and reflexologists, because I utilize those services too. So it's a collaboration. And one doctor in Ohio, I work with over 500 of his patients over the phone. I've never met them. So it's collaboration. So getting back to the emotional component, what I discovered through these clients and these wonderful individuals, that depression, for instance, is deepest disappointment. Now, doesn't that sound simplistic? But in the methodology, the Anshara method, within 10 minutes, we can get a resolution. It doesn't mean you have the solution, but you have the resolution of that traumatic experience that happened to the body. The body is the intelligence and intellect. The brain is not. The brain is a computer.
So if I'm understanding correctly, you're saying the resolution, meaning the stored memory of the experience in the physiology, in the cells.
Yes.
And once you clear that, it's not like the whole person's life is solved, but now they can move forward in a different way to possibly find the solution. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. And so I provide steps for a solution, but it doesn't mean they cut out their other practitioners, because now we're collaborating. Does that make sense? So I will recommend to them, whatever it is, if they have, broken bones, or they've had knee operations, or they've had torn meniscus, like, what is it emotionally that you created unconsciously? So what I will say is the body is like a house. Your computer brain, the left brain that goes to the right, manifesting, manufacturing, manipulating, we go recreate, recreate, recreate. There was a famous movie star, and I'm not going to name her name, but you'll figure it out, but she was married 8 times to the same man. And 4 of her best friends were gay or gender challenged, whatever you want to call them, but it's the profiles. And so we attract these profiles in the law of distraction. They come into our lives, and then we have a certain behavior in a role. And because I teach wordology or biology, is assisting people to comprehend the language that they use, or the language of illness. Well, so-and-so said, I'm going to die of this. Or so-and-so said, I'm always going to be in pain. Or so-and-so said, I will always have to take these medications the rest of my life. No, you don't.
Do you know, I talk about this a lot with my clients actually. If you've been around toddlers and they're learning to walk and they're, you know, falling down every this and that, you can even watch them at the park if you don't have your own children. And it's like a toddler will fall. Okay. If the mother runs over and goes, oh, are you okay? Oh my God. And catastrophizes it, all of a sudden they're bawling, right? Whereas if nobody sees them, they're usually up in a moment anyway and off running around again. Or if the parent comes over and goes, oh, okay, great, you're okay, let's go. They're much more like, right? It's just this energy question, right?
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. January. That is perfect. And I'm going to give you a quick scenario. I was in Home Depot one day, and this little toddler comes racing by, maybe 3, and he falls over. I see his dad at the end of the aisle, because that big aisle's at Home Depot, getting ready to run in dollar signs. I'm not kidding you. So I looked at the boy and I checked him out because an intuitive, I can see in the body and whatever's going on. And I walked over and I looked at him. I knew he was okay. And he looked up at me and I said, did you put a hole in that floor? And he went, what? And I go, did you put a hole in that floor? And he goes, no. And he starts laughing. I go, are you okay? And he goes, yes. And he's laughing and laughing. Here comes his dad, just ready to, pounce and scream. And I said, oh my God, he's great. And we thought he put a hole in the floor. And that made him laugh even more. His dad stopped literally dead in his tracks. He was going to make a big to-do about it, which is not wronging parents. But what you said is perfect, it's brilliant, and it's the truth.
Because we can do it to ourselves or not do it to ourselves, right? Like we can play either role for our own mind, I imagine.
Yes, and that's what makes the difference. And then you memorize that we got attention. This is another thing I've discovered in the cellular memory and the memorization over it, is that we teach our children how to get attention by being sick. Because now this is not ignoring them when they don't feel well, but why not give them attention when they're doing fabulous things? Mm-hmm. Wow, look how great you are. Look what you're doing. Look what you're accomplishing. Wow, but they get sick and then you take care of them or you take them to the doctor, which isn't wrong. But the fact is then they get out of the equation and it's the illness. It's that attention that becomes the primary focus now. And the kid goes,
No, that's interesting. Look at what happens, right? Yeah, exactly. So I know that you brought some examples of some miraculous healings that you've had with your clients. Would you like to share those with us?
I would. First, I'll start with these. And I got published in the American Holistic Nurses Journal. And this was about one of my first, writings about it in a publication that was medical. And so these are blood cells. These are kind of icky blood cells. So these are emotional, and this is fibromyalgia, this is inflammation, this is being 150 pounds overweight. This is all the stuff that's going on in the cells. So I was working with this gal, and we've been friends for years, and actually got her in to the healthcare industry, and she does fabulous lymphatics. So who would know from that experience? These were her cells 3 months later. Those are perfect blood cells, perfect aura around them. And that, and they said, and her doctor said, how did you do that? And I said, well, these are what I call belief systems, BS, not good enough, not deserving, you're too fat, you're too this, you're too that. And this is called consciousness. And that changes the structure. Because you cut your arm and the consciousness of the body knows how to heal it. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes the scars from the emotionality you can't see, but you see it in the behavior. Look at the opioid crisis and the drug crisis, because people are looking to suppress that emotional pain. So here's another one. This is a gal that came from Chicago. And I worked with her for 4 days. This is cancer. And this is the 4 days later. Isn't that amazing? And this was about not speaking her truth. It wasn't that she was lying, but she had to say her truth in a certain way to fit in. And how many of us have tried and tried to fit in?
That's what I was going to say. How many of us have experienced that? I think all of us. Yeah.
Everyone. I mean, I used to get this from my mother even, and she didn't mean it in a mean way, but she'd say, Sherry, where did you come from? Where do you get these ideas? Because as a little girl, I would tell her about the lights around people. And that was like, what? You know, we have to do an exorcism or something. But now we know that there are lights around people. It's called the field or the aura, electromagnetic or bioenergy, whatever you want to call it, it's the same.
Well, you know, I was going to ask you, I think it's so fascinating in the kind of work that you do that you're able to collaborate with medical doctors, chiropractors, practitioners in all different fields and be just like wildly respected and referred to. And that's, I love that. I think that's beautiful. That doesn't always happen. There's still, I think our culture is changing a lot, but I think there's still the like, oh, the woo woo, or how can that be? Is there something that you know, thoughts on that? Like, how do you do
it? Because I don't do woo-woo. And it's really based, what I teach is on practical quantum physics. Because the first step of quantum physics or astronomy or anything is you have to observe. You look through a telescope or you look at something and you observe it. And that's what I teach, observation, neo, non-emotional observer. And so when we begin to observe things, we now see it in a more expanded way. So that is the key to this. But in the beginning, the doctors thought I was nuts. Really, they did. And I was not received. But I didn't, I could respect what they said, but I wasn't going to buy it. So I just kept doing it. Matter of fact, I couldn't even get anybody to publish my books. And I will tell you, because of that near-death experience in 91, I was a very, very successful businesswoman and entrepreneur. I was even sued for alimony. So there you have it. So whatever. So after this accident, and I had worked really diligently, and I bought myself this beautiful 4-level home on a hill with a pool in Michigan. Who has pools? Crazy. And so when that happened, I could not work and function. I lost everything. I mean, everything. And I came to Arizona in 97 with my last $50 and didn't know anybody. But what I had inside me is my cellular memory of what I had done before. Now, I wasn't going to recreate it. I was going to create it in a brand new way. And so I just started publishing my books because I had to pay for them, because nobody would publish them because they weren't self-help. They weren't science. They weren't metaphysical, because I was talking about consciousness in 1991, along with the multiverse and cellular memory and cellular memorization. So, you know, that was a challenge. And like I said, a lot of my clients said I'm the one that coined it, only I can't take credit for it. But it wasn't until the transplants. And the famous transplant was the champagne and caviar lady who received the heart of a beer guzzling, motorcycle pizza eating guy. Her heart. This is the most expanded resonance. Science proved it, not the brain. And if we're only using half of the brain, this is why we recreate. So this lady started loving beer and pizza because that was his heart. And that is when I started getting recognized. That there must be something, but it was very, just a minority. And so a couple of weeks ago, I just did a whole seminar with a doctor in the Valley, and he just sat up on the stage for 4 hours and said, just listen. So I talked for 4 hours, and I did demonstrations, and within 10 minutes, these individuals who volunteered, I did not know them, didn't know their name, didn't know anything about them. They were just in the audience, and they volunteered, and we were able to get to the core in 10 minutes or less. That starts the resolution. Anyway, I'll show you a couple others. And here was a gal, this is diabetes and gangrene, and they were going to cut off her leg. And you can see this other leg in 4 hours. That is the brilliance of the body.
It's beautiful. And you were talking about, I want to go back a little bit to when you were first in your accident and you started talking to your body and you started listening and you started to have this dialogue and maybe like unpacking whatever was in there. Is there something that our listeners can do on their own? Like, what would be the first 1 or 2 steps that you would say on their own journey, like that they could do, that you would do?
First is look at your life as Neo, non-emotional observer. Don't go into the blame. Well, that person said this or whatever. And then I have charts, energetic charts that I created. So find out. So the second step is, because you're going to observe it no matter where you are. The second step is pain in the body is our body's attempt to get our attention. Mm-hmm. So what do we do when we have pain? We take a painkiller, or we take something to suppress the pain. Then the pain gets worse, and then we take more, and then we take more. You know, as a doctor of chiropractic, that when, you know, this is funny. People will say, well, my back went out. I go, where did it go? It's still inside you. And so
it ran away. No, yeah.
Yeah, it ran away. It's having lunch, or it's out, you know, wherever it went. So that's what I say. So address where the pain is, and then start connecting. So you listen through your heart, and you heary through the computer brain. So the heary is, oh yeah, well, they told me this and they told me that. So I started listening to my body, really listening. Why did I create this? And I figured it out. Doesn't matter. But what is this pain about? And what is it telling me? And the other thing is, when did it really start? Mm-hmm. So the pain might have shown up when you were 40, but the emotional component might have happened even in the birth, or it happened in the womb, or it happened at 12, or whatever. And then that makes it easier for the person. Well, if I injured my back, then I probably will require a chiropractor, not necessarily an orthopedic surgeon. No, I'm not wronging orthopedic surgeons, but don't have something cut until you know what is going on in the body, and the pain will tell you.
You know, I've actually worked with people that have had successful back surgeries and people that have had unsuccessful back surgeries.
Yes.
And it's really interesting. You can go in and mechanically change things. And if there's a strong emotional, energetic pattern that hasn't cleared, sometimes the pain doesn't go away at all.
No, it doesn't. I mean, I've known clients that have come to me that had gallbladders taken out, and they have gallbladder attacks because they didn't address exactly what you said, the emotional component of what is, and wherever the body is the weakest, and not necessarily biological. Because I've heard people say, well, my family has it, so I get it. Or I am the only one in my family that has that, and I get all the attention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So really, it sounds like just taking the time, being honest with yourself, and being willing to listen with your heart, listen, not the commentary, to start, I call it like almost like making friends, to start making friends with that part and giving it what it needs. Love, attention, whatever, right?
An acknowledgement. And so this is the other thing that I've discovered. When people have come to me and said they were ready, they weren't ready. It's when they're willing beyond anything, when they are willing, then they'll start listening. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But if they just say they're ready, I go, ready for what? No, like, are you getting ready for work? Are you getting ready for this? So that's the getting. Well, I'm getting ready. No, you have to be willing. And when you're willing to listen to your body, and that's the other thing. I go, I've heard people say, well, the doctor didn't do this, or this person didn't do this, you know, and I go, well, did you tell them what was happening? Well, not really. Did you tell? I was doing some research. I don't have the current statistics, but how much is spent on alternative, whatever alternative is. So now you go to your healthcare practitioner, or maybe a doctor or somebody, and they say, you know, I would advise you to take this. But you don't tell them what you're on, which could be counterindicated. And then they'll say, well, that didn't work, or that medicine didn't work, or that supplement didn't work. Because I said, it's not fair to the healthcare practitioner or the doctor or the chiropractor if you don't let them know all of it. And that was one of the things that I discovered in this research, which I don't have the current ones now, of how many millions of people and millions of dollars that were spending on stuff, and they were taking something else, and it wasn't compatible for their body, and they got worse. And then they wanted to blame it on the healthcare practitioner. You can't do that. So in the idea of connecting is to step into your own power. So now you can be the one who's guiding your own healing methodologies by taking the guidance of the professionals to support you, because you are the first professional for you.
I love it. I love it. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you. Well, I think we're almost at time here. Let's see. I believe that you brought, or you have a free gift for the audience?
Yes, actually, if the free gift is if they go on my website, they can get a free book called Getting Your Answers in 10 Minutes.
Ooh, oh, wow. Well, that sounds exciting. So, yep, I will have the link in the page below. Yep. And
also, I also have an opportunity that you can fill out a form and you can get I'll call it free, a complimentary 10-minute session with me.
That's exciting. That's exciting. I know that you did one for me and it was phenomenal. I really loved it.
Isn't that fun? And so you can do it for 10 minutes and it's amazing. And what gives you the empowerment to share some of that information with those that are caring for you. And one thing I will say, we've got to stop being caregivers and we got to start giving care.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
So then we don't get depleted energetically.
Mm-hmm.
So remember, trust your body, listen through your heart. Your body has all the answers. You just have to know how to ask the question. And question means the quest at your ion cellular level.
Oh, I love it. Thank you, Sherry, so much. Thank you for being here and sharing your spirit and your wisdom. I really appreciate it.
And thank you so much for having me as a guest. I really appreciate it. Thank you. And thank you, Louisa, for this fabulous introduction to Dr. January.
Thanks, Louisa. Okay, thanks everybody for listening. It was beautiful. Go ahead and share with us your big aha moments, any thoughts or feelings or something that was sparked for you. I would love to hear it. Okay, we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.